Hi everyone, welcome to the Rugby League History channel. Today I'll be doing another retro season review as part of my retro season Rugby League series. I've done quite a few videos on it, go and check it out, there's a playlist. But tonight it's going to be Western Suburbs and their 1996 NRL season. Just a bit of background on Western Suburbs before I start the 1996 season review. In the 1980s it were a particularly bad time for the club. They come last 4 times in that decade, and also they were briefly kicked out of the league but were later reinstated after a court appeal. At the start of the 1990s, however, the club pulled off a massive coup. They managed to get Warren Ryan as head coach and he brought in some players. 1991 they come 5th and qualified for the finals. 1992 they come 5th and qualified for the finals as well. Things looked like they were going in the right direction. However, in 93, 94 and 95, they come 13th on the table. Going into the 1996 season, the club were head coached by Tommy Raudonikis. The captains were Paul Langmack, who he was captain for 18 matches, and Craig Coleman, he was captain for 4 games. The highest crowd that they got at home for the year, coming round 20 against North Sydney at Campbelltown, 13,186 people attended that. The average crowd for the year at home was 6,964. Andrew Leeds was the top point scorer with 129 points, and Darren Willis was the top try scorer with 10 tries. To start off the 1996 season, the club recorded a 17-8 victory over Illawarra, and in their opening 4 matches they recorded 3 victories. The other ones were over Auckland, and then they also defeated high-spending Parramatta in round 4, 18 points to 14. Their only loss in the opening 4 fixtures were against Brisbane, and with the way that Brisbane were playing back then and how they were travelling, there's not really much shame in that. Towards the midway part of the year, Western Suburbs saw themselves just outside the top 8 places. In round 9, in front of just over 6,000 fans, they defeated Penrith 16 points to 6 in a very heated match where there was 4 sin bins and 1 player was sent from the field in that game. The match is actually on YouTube if you want to watch it. It was a very fiery encounter. I don't know what the players were on before the game or during the game, but both teams were very angry on that particular night. In round 12 of the competition, Western Suburbs pulled off one of their most dominant displays of the year. They beat the Gold Coast Chargers 42 points to 10 at Campbelltown. And in round 15, the club were involved in a very high-scoring match against North Queensland. This one was also at Campbelltown, and they ran out 40 points to 32 winners. In back-to-back weeks, in round 17 and round 18, Western Suburbs pulled off some big upsets at the time. In round 17, they defeated defending premiers Canterbury Bankstown 20 points to 16, and then the following week, they defeated the star-studded Canberra side 24 points to 16, also at Campbelltown Stadium. By round 19, the club was sat in 10th place, and in round 20, the equation was simple. They had to win 2 of their remaining 3 fixtures to qualify for the finals, and the opponent in round 20 were high-flying North Sydney, and they played them at Campbelltown Sports Ground in front of a season record 13,186 at home. This is a game that had everything. It's on YouTube. It's sometimes been replayed on Fox League. It was probably one of the games of the year, in my personal opinion, looking back on it. With 3 minutes to go, Western Suburbs defied all the odds. They were up 22 points to 20. And then Andrew Willis gave away a penalty. From about 40 yards out, Jason Taylor, one of the best goal kickers in the game at the time, converted it to make it 22-all. With 48 seconds left on the clock, Andrew Willis for Western Suburbs tried a drop goal from pretty much the halfway line, and the ball just went over the crossbar. Some people say that it went under, but the referee just straight away went, it's 1 point, it's a drop goal, and Western Suburbs held on to win the game 23 points to 22. The following week, they were brought down to earth though. They were beaten 42 points to 12 against rivals Manly. However, they secured a place in the top 8 when they defeated Illawarra 12 points to 8 at Campbelltown Stadium. In the qualifying final, their opponent were Cronulla, who finished 5th on the table. This was back when the McIntyre system were in existence, so 5th played against 8th. Cronulla were the favourites to win this game. It was played at Parramatta Stadium for some reason, I don't know. Western Suburbs took the lead at half-time, 6 points to 2, but unfortunately they went down 20 points to 12 at full-time in front of a very good crowd of 22,433 spectators. This, unfortunately for Western Suburbs and their supporters, would be the last time that they would qualify for the finals as a standalone entity. Looking back at the year, I think that Western Suburbs had a very successful year. They didn't have the strongest of squads. They had some experienced players, but overall, I think that qualifying for the finals, especially after coming 13th 3 years in a row, were a good step for the club. An interesting fact about the year is that they really made Campbelltown Sports Ground a fortress because they only lost twice at home for the entire year. If I would look back at some of their games that I thought that you could see that they were very impressive in, round 7 they defeated Cronulla 18 points to 10. Cronulla went on to make the preliminary final that year, beating Canterbury Bankstown, defending premiers, in round 17, beating Canberra in round 18, and then also the win over North Sydney, who at the time were one of the favourites to take out the premiership for 1996. I think that they were good results of Western Suburbs. Looking at some results which were very disappointing for Western Suburbs in 1996, losing 42 points to 12 against Manly at Brookfield Oval. Yes, Manly did finish as minor premiers that year, but it's one of their big rivals, and Western Suburbs always hated losing to Manly. Another very disappointing result for Western Suburbs in the competition that year happened in round 14 against South Queensland. Now, South Queensland ended up finishing with the wooden spoon that year. They were diabolical for most of it, and they were beaten 24 points to 22 at Suncorp Stadium. But obviously, Tommy Raudonikis must have flogged them at training the following week, because then they come out and they beat North Queensland 40 points to 32. Unfortunately for Western Suburbs, they couldn't build on the 1996 season. In 1997, it was a split competition. Western Suburbs remained loyal to the ARL, and they were in that ARL split competition for that 1 year. It was a 12-team competition, and Western Suburbs come 9th. In the final round of the year, all they had to do was beat Wooden Spoon of South Queensland at Lang Park to qualify for the finals for a second consecutive year. And they were beaten 39 points to 18 by South Queensland in what would be their final game. This, coupled with the Gold Coast Chargers winning that game against, I think it were against Balmain, meant that Western Suburbs missed out in the finals, and the Gold Coast Chargers qualified for their first ever final series. And of course, we all know about 1998-99. The club finished with back-to-back wooden spoons, and it was a very dark time for the club. And they ended up merging with Balmain to form the West Tigers ahead of the 2000 NRL season. So that concludes my review of Western Suburbs 1996 ERL season. I hope you enjoyed this review. If you did, let me know in the comment section below. Let me know which retro season reviews you'd like me to do next. Some of the ones I've done recently have got some very good numbers. The Cronulla retro season review I did got over 2,300 views, so thanks to everyone that watched that video. Now, they say that nobody cares about history, nobody cares about the old days, nobody cares about what happened in the 1950s, and nobody cares about the players that built the game. And the modern NRL viewer doesn't care about what happened in the past, but I'd just like to say that for the people that have subscribed to the channel and watched the videos, you show the people out there that you do care, and that people do care about the past, and they do value history, and they do value the traditions of the game. So thank you for supporting this channel. So this has been Rugby League History. I'll catch us all later in the next video, which will be the View from the North podcast. It's returning in 2023 with Just Rugby League. We'll be doing our first episode or / podcast on the Thursday night. It's starting about 8 o'clock our time, probably about 4 o'clock in the morning for Australia and New Zealand and places like that. But anyways, this has been Rugby League History, and I'll catch us all later in that one. Alright, tatty bye for now.